friend. Welcome to the treehouse. Want to come inside? Oh, wait, just one last thing. All right, let's go inside. Ho, ho, ho! Welcome to the last frame by frame of the year. Happy holidays to everyone, whatever you are celebrating. I just hope that the last weeks of the year are incredible for you. And I'm excited about today's live stream, all about leading lines photography, which was this week's challenge. Apologies. I didn't have the live stream set up until today. Just been super busy with a lot of things the past week. But this is the last one of the year, and I'm excited about it. I'll be back in the new year, and I'll make sure to get that going. But if you're here live, if you did make it, let me know if I'm coming loud and clear through the mic. And it's been a crazy day. And I don't know if you saw, I don't know if students pay that much attention, but I did want to just comment really quickly on huge news yesterday, which is that Coursera and Udemy are merging. Basically, Coursera is buying Udemy, and it's going to mean a big change for me. A lot of you have probably found Photography and Friends through our courses on Udemy, and there are so many questions that are on everyone's minds, from the students who are like, am I going to still be able to access my courses, to instructors on Coursera's course model is way different than Udemy's, and so how will that impact us? All that being said, I think what I'm really happy about is that we have sort of created this great platform, Photography and Friends, outside of these course marketplaces, which we have control over. And so I'm going to be here. This is going to continue to be my home. And I was talking with my wife about my 2026 goals, and a lot of it is just continuing to dive deeper in my own photography and skills that on that side as well. And that's going to be a lot here in the community. So, anyways, this week we are talking about leading lines, and let me get to the right screen. It's going to be a little different today because I do not have a presentation created, but I think this will be like a good experiment anyways, because as I go through your photos, I was thinking last time that it was really nice to be able to pop open a photo and use my mouse to, which I did at the very end, to kind of show parts of an image, like what I'm talking about. So we will see if this is good. I do like the kind of cleaner look of creating the slideshow that I've done in the past, and I'm interested to see what you think as well. But anyways, leading lines is the challenge. I'm going to switch my Santa hat because it's very warm to my photography hat, which I do not know where my Photography and Friends hat is. I think I left it in Europe when we went there this summer, because I haven't seen it in a long time. So I'm wearing my Claremont Botanic Garden, or California Botanic Garden hat, which is now my favorite hat. As always, though, going to be reviewing your photos. 1 through 5 stars is what I give. And if you hit the theme and it's a good photo, it's going to land right in the middle. Photos that need some improvement will be 1 or 2 lightning bolts. And my favorite photos are going to be 4 and 5. If you were here last week, I tried to go add a little bit more energy and make things a little bit more get to the point. I think I ended up slowing down at the end last week, but I want to do that again. I think having a little bit more energy, being a little bit faster, is going to be more beneficial for you and for me. So with all that being said, if I don't say it again, happy holidays, happy end of the year. And let's get straight into our photo reviews, starting with Lucretia. Lucretia? And hello, everyone live. I'm glad you made it. Celeste, Suzanne, Thomas, Diola Doctor, Imran. Hey, how's it going? All right, so leading lines. You probably know what leading lines are, but these are lines that appear in your frame that naturally, maybe they're obvious, sometimes they're not obvious, and they just kind of naturally lead the viewer's eye through the photo. It doesn't have to be to a subject, but it can be to a subject. And so we're going to see a lot of great examples today. So let's get to it. So Lucretia posted this photo of the cat. We see these leading lines coming from this brickwork. It's also kind of frame within a frame, which is nice as well. And it's a nice photo overall. Nice in focus. I'm going to give this, I think, like, is my lightning bolt working? There we go. I'm going to give this one a 3 bolts because it's a nice photo. There are lines in there. I think the leading lines aren't as strong as they could be. I think maybe even being zoomed out from the cat or wider, and if you could really see more of those lines, it would have made that sort of technique a little bit more apparent. But for what it is, it's pretty solid. In focus. So good submission. Ian Wilson posts this photo of this street vendor. Again, I feel like this is probably more frame within a frame. There are some lines in the frame, but they're not really leading to a specific subject. They're not leading my eye through anything. I actually don't really see many leading lines other than maybe like this highlight at the top. And then we've got like this line of the canopy at the top as well. You got some lines on this text, but it's not very apparent. Frame within a frame, this is nice. I would have probably tried to move to the right just a little bit so that and crouch down so that the main subject of this photo, which is this guy prepping food, was completely seen and not cut off. And I think just shifting down to the right would have helped that. I'm actually going to give this a 1 lightning bolt for this particular challenge. It's I don't know if it really hit the leading lines as much as I would have wanted. All right, Hong Wang, beautiful colors in this photo. I think my initial reaction is this is going to be a solid 3 for me. You do have these nice lines going through the frame. You see, this is like a good example of that here. You see this brickwork at the bottom going towards the distance. And it does kind of carry your eye through the image. You got the roof line as well. I think for the technique of leading lines to be stronger in this image, potentially, I don't know what's to the right of this frame, but I'm almost more interested in like seeing what these lines lead to. And this bridge looks very like it has nice architecture. But still, there's some nice leading lines. It's kind of like a nice angle through this frame, and it's kind of split into thirds where you have the bottom third of the water, you have this middle third of all these colors, and then the top third, which the top left third is probably my least favorite. There's not much going on. So again, I think going towards the right in this composition could have made it stronger without losing much up here in the top left corner. But beautiful colors in this photo. And of course, if you have any thoughts about these photos, questions, pop them in the chat while we go along. Paige Schreiber, this is a classic shot in New York. Forgive me, I don't know New York's geography. I don't know what bridge this is, but it's one of those classic ones that you see a lot of photos, a lot of videos of, and I think this is a really nice leading line photo. Classic look going down the center of a street, a bridge, anything where you have railings on the side. What's up, Miriam? Thanks for being here. And this one's a little bit, I think, because it is centered to like a lot of things. It's centered to the bridge tower in the middle. Um, Maybe getting down lower. So the bridge tower thing is centered, but you are not centered on this path. And I think it would have been stronger if you as the photographer were shifted to the left and you were standing right in the middle of this middle line, and then the railings on the side would also be more balanced out than they are. You still would have wanted to center the tower in the middle, but just for making this a little bit stronger, I think that would have. I think because there's so many lines and it's an iconic shot, you hit the challenge pretty well. I'm gonna give you three lightning bolts for this photo as well, and that's in Brooklyn. Thanks, David. All right, Bhavin. Bhavin posts this photo of looks like a window curtain in New Delhi. Lots of lines going on. I'm curious if you think these are leading lines or just lines, because I think there is a difference in how we use lines as a photo compositional technique as leading lines versus just having lines in your frame. And I think this is an example of where the lines to me just are lines. And that's not bad. It's kind of cool to have this repetition of a pattern. I like the silhouette. It makes you feel like you're there in this room waking up in the morning, but the lines themselves aren't really leading to anything. It's not like my eye is like going top to bottom and it's, creating this interesting like perspective. So I think for that reason, I'm going to give it a 1 just for this challenge. If this was something more like pattern or morning light, I think this would be a really solid photo though. But thank you for posting, Bhavin. All right, Anita, this is another classic leading line type of picture where you have just a road, and this is a road where you got these natural lines from, looks like these tractor wheels that are going down this road. I think the leading lines are nice. I like the edit, kind of warm, muted tones, and it gives like a nice vibe. I think what would make a photo like this stronger is if at the end of these leading lines there was something more interesting to look at. Maybe without that, maybe crouching down could have helped just make this a more interesting composition. And remember that, because there's a photo, I did just briefly look through these photos before, and there's a photo later by one of you out there watching live right now that is a very creative way to position your camera that makes an ordinary photo into something more extraordinary. And that's something I talked about in the was it the powerful photography class? No, I think it is a challenge next year. The theme is something ordinary becomes extraordinary. And this photo that you'll see later on does that just by the positioning of the camera. So I'm excited to show you that, because not that, it makes this photo less good. It's just what we go back to when we teach, and Will hammers it into our students that take your camera and instead of just being eye level, put it somewhere else, which will just automatically create more interest in a photo. That being said, this photo is beautiful, and I think like if you frame this, it would look very nice. And I'm gonna give it a 4. I like it. Appleton Farms. Thanks, Anita. Jeffrey Trosson, drive to what was that? Red Rock Canyon in Vegas, baby. Classic looking down the road. This looks like, I don't know if you took the time to get out of the car and do it. Hey, Maria, welcome. It's It's definitely leading lines, don't get me wrong. A couple things that I would change to just improve this as is I probably would crop in a little tighter. There's this post on the right-hand side that I would probably just crop out. I also kind of want to be a little bit closer to the Red Rock Canyon sign, so it's a little bit easier to be visible. So if it was cropped in just a tiny bit, you lose like this little weird house and this pole on the right-hand side. Maybe pump the contrast, make it black and white, or boost the reds and yellows saturation just to really get that deserty vibe. Something just to, I kind of want more color, or just black and white would be kind of cool. And I don't think like you don't always have to be looking dead set down the middle of a street for it to be good, which this photo is not doing. Yeah, I think like maybe there's also a chance, like I'm always just looking at these photos and I'm trying to imagine being there, trying to think, how could you improve this photo? Or how could you take a different photo, more interesting photo in this place? And walk with me. You're standing here on the street, you're driving down. If you backed up from this position, but you had a lens that could zoom in a little bit more, if you backed up, this Red Rock sign could probably be positioned a little bit more like right where this bush is, or in this bottom of this little valley. And if you were zoomed in, you still have the leading lines. You could see that sign better. It's kind of in a more creative position rather than like scooched over to the edge, right in the middle of this little valley. I think that would be cool. And also zoomed in where you could see more of the textures on this rock, I think would have helped. But overall, solid 3-star. You hit the leading lines, and it's a great example of that. Yves Martel, Trièvre in French Alps. Beautiful road. Very similar comments to Anita's photos that I will share, is that this is a beautiful photo. Lots of great leading lines, like all these lines. It's not just the road, but it's the line of the tree. It's the line of these hills. They're all kind of leading towards this point. And what I love about this is that then your eye kind of finds this cool rock face in the distance. What I don't like is that it's very hazy in the distance. I probably would have tried to expose anyways to see what it was like to the rock face, so that you're not losing those details in it. Otherwise, you could probably edit it to bring back some of those highlights and details, do a little dehazing in the background. And as I'm talking about this, you know what might actually be a really cool photo is if it was more of like a portrait photo, just crop out this left side of the frame, and it was just this road kind of leading to the face of this mountain. That might be kind of a cool crop that showcases that leading line a little bit better too. But similar to Anita's, I like the photo, and I'm going to give this 4 lightning bolts. Good job. All right, Miriam. Miriam has this photo, plot twist. I wasn't feeling well and was too contagious or lazy to chase grand outdoor vistas. So I found my lines right here in my sick bed reading material. Well, we hope you feel better, Miriam. And I do like the leading lines. You got all these leading lines of the text itself, but also of the book, the spine in the middle of the book. Really nice. The lighting's very cool, and it creates this like heart shape, which is really cool too. And you have a lot of great symmetry going on. Because I'm a perfectionist in terms of symmetry, I would probably have tried to get that symmetry like perfect, and maybe that could have been done with some editing using the transform tool or cropping in something like Lightroom. But you can see that like this bottom dark triangle is not the same as this right one. Also, this triangle at the top of dark light is a little bit off centered and it's not like perfectly a equilateral triangle. And so I'm getting very picky here, but I'm just doing that because this is a cool photo. But I would just maybe do those two things to square this up and get that perfect symmetry. But I like the idea because you got this rock here and it creates that heart shadow. Very cool. So very solid photo. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I would do. Yeah, the more I look at this, like the heart-shaped light and then the shadow, that's really cool. I don't know if I've seen that before. The lines do lead to this little pebble. I'm wondering if there's a way, maybe if your camera was a little lower or something where I'm not sure if I like the pebble centered or if I would like it more like in the top third. But having it centered is really cool too. Very symmetrical, very balanced, very pleasing photo that you captured while you were sick. So I think this is a solid 4, maybe 5. My favorite photo that I've seen so far. That's for sure. So good job, Miriam. All right, Juliana. Let's see. Where is this? This is why I like having the website up so I can see. Outdoor sculpture garden in Tuscany using the Rebel T7. Well, this is a very cool photo. This is a 4. I mean, if I've given some of the other photos a 4, then this is definitely a 4. I mean, it's just so cool having these different statues, the busts of all these ancient people here in this garden. It's very cool. And you have this nice leading line going down this pathway. It's very nicely balanced. And the lighting is really cool too. And it's got a bench in there. Maybe the bench feels a little tight in the bottom left corner. Maybe like, and this path is not exactly centered, which it doesn't have to be, but zooming out or just being a little bit back further might have helped a little bit. It's a tough one because you got a lot of highlights and shadows that you're dealing with. I could almost see like leaning into those shadows with the edit, and you have like this 1 and maybe this 2 second statue that are really highlighted in this like ray of sunlight, and even darkening or vignetting or something to like this foreground. You could have leaned into that with the edit and it might look creative, but I mean, for what it is, it's a solid photo. It's eye level. I don't mind that as much for this photo because I like being eye level with these statues, which is kind of cool. It's almost like you're standing right there. So I think this is a good use of being eye level. So solid 4. Good job. Beautiful, Juliana. Arthur Gali posts this photo. Walking bridge over the Iguazu River. Definitely leading lines. Solid use of that. Again, eye level. I think being down lower just would have made this a little bit more interesting because I think what's most interesting in this photo are these textures on this railing. But yeah, very cool. I think the only thing that would have made this like sort of interesting is if there was a subject here, and maybe it's waiting for someone to bike by or walk by, or posing yourself if you had a tripod, which probably don't, but something where someone's in the middle here could have looked really, really cool. So I think like you hit the leading lines, totally leading lines. So I think it's a 3. I'm being a little generous today. I feel like we're on a par 1 or whatever, par 4, par 3. I don't know golf, but everyone's hitting those leading lines pretty good. So pretty good photo. All right. And here we got Thomas, who's here. And this is the photo I was talking about before, where it's hard to take photos like this and make them super interesting. I think in terms of leading lines, we do have leading lines. You got the leading lines of the door. And this is one where it's not like so in your face leading lines like the pathway or the street or railings, but you have all these lines that are naturally in this frame from the windowsills and the bricks and everything that lead your eye here. And it's a great positioning of the camera down here underneath these motorcycles or mopeds, scooters that you have on the right. And you just have all these reflections and doors. The black and white edit's great. The vignetting's very nice as well. Almost looks like you did a slow shutter because that cloud at the top is kind of moving fast. And now that I look at it, you did, because it looks like you got a lot of movement down here of people, which is super cool. So props, Thomas, to you. I think this is taking a ordinary walking through this cool, I don't know where this is, Florence, which we do if we're lucky enough to be a tourist with cameras walking through, and to make this sort of scene just look so creative and artistic. It's a really good photo. So Thomas, I know you want critiques, but I'm going to give you a 5 because this is my favorite photo so far anyways. And it's just a great use of putting your camera in the right place for to make this photo more interesting. I mean, leading lines wise, like maybe if I want to try to dock you, like there definitely are leading lines. I think there's probably some images where the leading lines technique or compositional technique is stronger, but just for this photo in itself, it's beautiful and it does have leading lines. So great photo, Thomas. Thank you for posting. All right, Cesar Guzman. Walking to the theater to watch a play, and on my way there saw this couple practicing dancing. Whoop, I'm about to sneeze. All right, caught it. All right, Caesar, can I open this up big? Why is it not opening up big? Huh, interesting. It's not letting me open it up. It's letting me open David's. But anyways, lots of cool lines going on. Also framing within these posts, which is cool, but you have these lines on the roof that are very cool, leading to the subject. I think that you could have emphasized, or it would be a stronger photo if it's hard because I'm not there, so I don't know what it would have looked like exactly, but like really leaning into one of these sides and one of these set of lines to the subjects might have been cool. Like if you had scooched really close to this wall on the left and you have all these lines of the wall, and it would take up more in the frame, which wouldn't be as kind of nicely balanced as this photo is, but those lines would have probably been stronger in the frame leading to your subject. Similarly, like on the ground, I see all these lines, even these shadows, which are cool lines. And if you were down on the ground to the right and all these lines were leading to these dancers, that would have been nice. I mean, if you were up higher, which I don't think you probably could have done, but all these lines in the ceiling, again, if it was like closer to the camera, I think it would have emphasized those lines pretty well. That being said, it's a very cool film cinematic type of frame. I like the square crop. It's pretty cool. Very straight lines, which I like. So solid 4-star for me. Cool. Good job, Caesar. All right, we got David. Late afternoon. Ooh, Pismo Beach. Cool. That's not too far from me. I'm guessing you were up on the pier or something. And you got these great leading lines of probably the lifeguard truck that's driving through the sand, and very cool. I really like this. You got these lines. It's kind of it is naturally leading my eye up through this photo, which is kind of just this nice beach scene. Your edits are always really good, David, with the colors and tones and the overall exposures. So very nice. I think similar to some of the other photos, like to really emphasize the leading line, maybe it's getting the camera closer to where the beginning of one of those lines is, or highlighting one of these tracks. But that being said, like that might not have been a better photo. Like this is a very nice photo. I think for me, it's also going to be a 5 bullet photo for me. So just lovely tones and creative. It takes someone looking out and having that photographic eye to really see this track in the sand and using that as something creative in their frame, and not just being like, well, I'm going to go to the water and you take a photo of the waves or the beach because that's what most people tend to do. So just a good creative eye to look out for that. So good job, David. Wanya photo walked. Yes, good job taking photos this week. I love that. So thank you for getting out there. And you guys, I love the edit. First off, I love the black and white edit. It's very, very solid black and white use of a photo. Great reflection. You do have these leading lines. I think the theme is, for me, for improvement in using leading lines as a photographic technique. Get that camera closer to the start of a line, because that will really emphasize and will help draw the viewer's eye towards something or through your frame. Because yes, there are these leading lines along this water. I think that's like a path or something, but not as strong of a leading line that as I think you could have captured here. But still, great photo. I think if you were probably like this reflection and building is really nice. And so you got this tree here. I'm wondering if even on the other side of this, if you're on like a lake or this river, using the foreground right here on the left as a line would have been interesting to get. Yeah, I'm just trying to think, like, if there was a way to get those lines leading directly to this building a little bit stronger, maybe. Solid photo though. I'm gonna do 3-star just because I think the leading lines aren't as strong, but still really great edit and nice reflection. Very peaceful. Mubin took this picture last year in Arizona. Cool lines. Very cool lines. Kind of leading. Look at this cool reflection on the left side though, like, or this cool shadow on the left side. I want to see where that goes. I haven't really like put this into words before, but as I'm going through all these photos, I think the tip is, if you want to use leading lines, the camera has to be closer to the start of a line. And so again, I think if your camera was somewhere closer to this line, closer to, or not even closer, but maybe like to the left where you see the start of this shadow, that would have been really cool. Like, I don't need to see this. And again, I've never been here, so I don't know. Like, maybe there's a cliff to the left. You can't walk to the left. Who knows? I don't need to see this cliff, though, in the right. There's also all these lines from the way that this rock cliff has eroded over time with the layers of water that were probably there like millions of years ago. And so utilizing those would have been interesting if you could have got to a spot where these lines on the hill and you put your camera somewhere closer. Even if there's lines on your side of this cliff that lead to this bridge, would have been really cool too. Still a cool photo. Gosh, I feel a little critical giving this a 2 because there's a lot of cool lines in there. But I don't know if it's, I guess this is leading. I guess this, like, the support of this bridge is leading. Yeah. So maybe it's a 3. Maybe I was a little bit too critical for that photo. Thanks, Mubin. Bojan. Here is another classic leading line photo. 18mm Nikon D780. And you have the subject in there. Now, for effort and attempt, this is like a solid 3 lightning bolts for me. I think there could be some easy improvements to this. I think centering yourself on this bridge or platform would have helped, because I think it's just like so close to being centered that you want to be centered and symmetrical. There's an argument to say, like, get over to the side, and that's fine, like, but get even closer to the side and have it be at more of an angle. But I think because everything is so symmetrical in here, lean into that, center yourself on here. And I would have probably also brought my camera down so that the line of the lights is a little bit higher in the frame. The line of the bottom of the boardwalk is big and prominent. And then just those subjects are totally centered. So I think that's what I would have done to improve this. It's hard because it's very dark. I wonder if being perfectly centered, it would have created a little bit more backlight on them. Maybe it's taking the photo a little sooner so that they are maybe lit up a little bit more. But I love having that subject in there. So that was a good patience or a good just spotting the moment to have those subjects in that sort of like apex of the apex. Is that the right word? Of the leading lines. Radomir is always posting some really cool, funky colors. And this is another one where it was very interesting. Like, usually your eye is naturally looking at the bottom of a photo like this with lines on a street, but this time it's the opposite. So it's like taking my eye a second to kind of like recognize what's going on. This one's really cool. And again, I think my perfectionist self is thinking that the bottom, downloads, no. The bottom of this image is slightly not level or centered or something. There's something about like the lines on the left and the right not being perfectly symmetrical where everything else is symmetrical. That being said, this is like a really funky, cool photo, and I'm going to give you a 5. The edit's crazy. You went out and found some really cool lines that are, I would call, leading. I would be interested to see what, if you tilted down just a little bit, this would look like. I feel like the lines at the top take up a lot of the frame. I mean, it's the top half of this frame. And when you're thinking about leading lines, like, you're thinking about perspective, right? And so if you just saw the top of this, it wouldn't really be leading lines. The leading lines are that the perspective, the angle of your photo is looking through these lines that are leading down this frame. And because those top lines don't do that, I almost wonder if either you were higher and looking down, or if you're just tilted down, it would have been more interesting. But I don't know what's at the bottom of this. Maybe there's like people or an ugly road or construction or whatever on this bridge that's not interesting. But very cool edit. Good photo. Dave Parkinson. Cool wall. Lots of leading lines. A little dark. There are leading lines. Solid 3-star, like just you got the leading lines. I think the edit's a little dark in my opinion. And again, just to improve this type of photo, it's interesting to look at, but is it, what would make it more interesting? Probably a subject, probably some sort of subject walking down this path, biking down this path. And that would have taken just waiting around, creating it yourself, something to just make this that much more interesting to look at. Because right now it's like, cool, it's a path, got some cool leading lines, it's a wall. If it was brighter, I think, I think it's just, I want to see a little bit more detail. But just having something interesting to look at would have made this a better photo for me. The question is, a local alleyway, hope the graffiti adds to the photo. Yeah, and I think the graffiti does. I think it's a little dark. It's hard to see, but I think the graffiti does add to the story of this place. Raymond, the lizard lost his tail escaping from our cat. There are lines, but I don't think they are leading necessarily in this photo. I think if you had captured it from an angle or even just not as close up, you have these lines going down the tree and the tree bark. And this is one where the lines don't have to be in a perspective going from the viewer towards something, but it could just be down the face of a photo or across. And if that was the case where you just had these lines going towards like a subject that was a little smaller, that would have helped. I mean, the lizard itself also has some cool lines in it. But again, I think, yeah, maybe I'm being a little bit biased and like wanting lines to be leading lines to be a certain way. But yeah, I think typically for a photo, like you want the leading lines to draw the viewer's attention through the photo. And I don't think that's what's going on here as much. It's for a texture. This is awesome. Save this for the texture challenge. I think I'm going to give you a 2, just because I think the leading lines aren't as strong as they could be. But texture wise, cool photo. Katrina. Interesting photo. I like the simplicity, the minimalism of this. You have these lines that are going down, which I would not consider leading, but you have the leading lines are this top line and this bottom line at the base of these pillars, and then these lines in the walkway. Those are the ones that draw the viewer's eye towards something. Of course, you have all these other lines, which are really cool too. But these aren't necessarily the leading lines. It's just looking down this walkway. Very balanced. I think the top has a little bit more weight than the bottom in terms of the weightiness of this photo. And I think what could have made this a bit more interesting is if the camera was even higher. Here's one where usually we're telling you to like put your camera down closer to the ground, but if your camera was higher, the symmetry and the balance of this top, not quadrant, but this top, I don't know, is that a quadrant? Triangle versus this bottom triangle would be equal. And again, because it seems like you're trying to lean into that, it would have lean into that minimalism, lean into that symmetry. I think that could have helped. If you were just editing this photo to try to do that, you probably could have just edited it out this left post and then cropped here at the top, and you would get that same sort of balance and symmetry that you might be going for. But this is a really cool photo. I'm going to give it a 4. And I think it's nice, minimal, cool kind of pattern photo with some leading lines as well. So good job, Katrina. Philea, a quiet road leading into a warm sunset. Nice photo, nice vibe. A little dark for me. To highlight again those leading lines, I'd probably get my camera closer to like the start of one of these painted dashes in the middle of the road, or to the curb on the right side, just to have that leading line. Like, imagine this curb, instead of like starting here and feeling very far away from you as the viewer, imagine that curb starting right in the corner and just leading down the street, or this line of the stripe in the middle just starting at the beginning. I could lose this stop sign painted at the bottom. Maybe even just cropping that out, cropping like right here could have helped with that. But just get that camera closer to the start of one of those. Ooh, I see a interesting bird. What is that? I think it's a cedar waxwing. The birds are it is. Yes, it is. The birds are crazy today. But yes, I think that would have helped this. I think I like the sunset enough and kind of the vibe that I'm still going to give you a 3, but those little changes would have emphasized the leading lines a bit and I think helped out. Ranveg. Interesting. Moody morning from my bedroom window. Wow, cool bedroom window. Leading lines, there's kind of this perspective of leading lines, kind of like with these trees. I think if there were more trees like leading down, that would have been interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Other than that, is it really leading lines? I like this as a challenge for textured, or not textured, layers. This would be a very cool challenge. But leading lines, I don't know. I think I need something else, like either if it's like the ridges that are leading to something, or something else in the frame that like is leading your eye towards the distance to make this like really strong for leading lines. So I think I'm gonna give this 2 lightning bolts. Still great photo. I think it's like a nice texture, nice view in the morning. I want that view. Jolene on this looks like precarious bridge, this gondola type thing over the water. I like it. I think lots of cool leading lines. Again, it feels a little dark to me overall, and I think because of the darkness, this gondola kind of blends into the background a bit. I think you could have cropped out this bottom part and gotten rid of that and just started the framing at the bottom of this with these cables that are really cool leading lines. Or if you could have like got your camera closer to those lines, I think that would have been cool too. It would have like made the perspective of the leading line stronger, going towards the gondola that's going across the water. And I can see, so like I think moment wise, like taking this photo and positioning of the camera could have been improved just a tiny bit, just to get, if possible, I don't know if it was possible to get your camera down lower to these cables. But I also like the suspension of this gondola thing over the water. And so getting the camera closer to these cables wouldn't have allowed you to get that framing. I almost want this whole like gondola thing to be in the water, in the framing of this river, and not like up at the edge of the landscape next to the river. Would have been kind of like frame within a frame as well as leading lines. I think I'm going to give you a 4. It's pretty cool. I think with editing, you could make this stand out better in terms of like the gondola, pump up the exposure, maybe even do some sort of like soloed color luminance decrease with like making the blues darker, the reds brighter or something. I'd have fun playing around with editing this photo for sure. Derek, taking photo of sunset with my new Canon R6 Mark III. Nice. I love this. I love the leading lines that are so subtle, but you see them everywhere, and you don't notice them. This is a photo that you don't notice the leading lines, but they are there. You got like this path of water with this curved line around the edge, but then you have all these clouds. All these clouds are creating these subtle lines towards the distant silhouette. You got the landscape line going across as well. So all of these lines help emphasize and draw your attention to what's here. But at the same time, there's so much else that's interesting to look at too. You got these ripples, you got the reflection, you got the colors that are very nice. Solid exposures to silhouette the distant background, but also have enough light in the foreground and in the sky. Really good photo, Derek. So 5 lightning bolts for me. Good job. Great example of like natural leading lines that aren't like a man-made railing or street or thing like that. Ooh, very took this photo also with lots of leading lines. I saw this photo before I started the stream, and I've been a little critical or not as big of a fan as of some of your latest posts, but for the challenges, but this one I think nails it for me. Not only do you have like the leading lines of this like overhanging structure, you got the leading lines of the railing. It's a little off kilter. It's not like perfectly level, but I think because it's so abstract and experimental with the double exposure, it like makes it feel dreamy and funky. But then at the same time, you have this subject that's in the middle of the frame, in the middle of these lines. So the lines are all leading towards the subject, which I think makes it super strong. So even without the double exposure, it would have been a really good photo. And with it, it just makes it, well, more that very style that is very cool and just hard to achieve. So 5 stars for you, very good photo. Solid use of leading lines. Annette with this backyard fences for your choice of subject this week. Yeah, so this is where getting the camera close to the subject or closer to the line emphasizes those leading lines. I think the issue I have with this is that the focus is totally on the distance, and these lines, because there's so many lines on this fence that do kind of draw the viewer's eye down this photo. This is out of focus, and I want that to be in focus. And so I think if that had been in focus, it would have made those lines much more stronger. There's not much going on at the end of these lines, so the leading lines are leading to nothing really interesting, I guess, which is kind of a struggle or a bummer with this scene. So I'm going to give you a 3 because I think the leading lines are there and it's exposed well. I think it's just like, what else is happening in the photo? What is the story of this moment? Is there anything that like takes it to the next level? And then I think the missed opportunity with the focus. And I don't know. I'd be curious with your camera and lens, like if you had been focused here, I'm not sure what your f-stop would have been and if everything could have still been in focus. Or maybe if the background was out of focus, but just this bottom half was in focus, maybe that would have been cool. Maybe everything doesn't have to be in focus. You also have this leading line of the roof line here. That is a line. I don't know if it like helps the photo. I think capitalizing on this cool texture would have been a nice thing to do. If this is just a backyard fence, maybe you can retake that photo with that in focus. Yeah, maybe. All right, Jenny Williamson, Golden Gate National Park in South Africa. Cool. All right, do you know what I'm going to say? Lovely textures, great location. You got some cool lines. You got this line down here. You got the lines of on the face of the rock. And it kind of leads you to this area of the photo right here where this canyon is, and where this is that like a little bridge where like a road or a railroad or something goes across. I think leaning into those lines would have been helpful. So getting the camera down closer to this line going this way would have helped. And even being further towards the left with a tighter crop or zoom would have emphasized the lines on the face of this rock towards that distance. So I think you got leading lines, solid leading lines, but positioning the camera somewhere else would have helped emphasize the perspective, and you using those leading lines to make the photo more interesting, like to showcase, to draw it to a subject. I think it's tough. It's tough. My only concern was whether I should darken the bridge. I think I feel like it could have been better without that there, but it's there. So I don't know if you need to hide it, almost like you want to highlight it because it is there. Yeah, I think if your camera was down closer to this little crevice here, and maybe you were even doing like a portrait crop or something where it like really highlights this crevice leading up to these rock walls, that would have helped. All right, Janet. Ooh, love this photo. Oh yeah, baby. This is 5-star for me. Great use of putting the camera right next to where the line starts, because look how much that forces our brains to like look down this path and around. So really cool use. I mean, you probably could have even been on the other side of this platform and done it, but then you would have lost like seeing this overhang over the water. Like you would have been highlighting the boardwalk, the pier, whatever this is. And I don't think that would have been the right decision. I think you made the right decision of like doing it this way, where it's kind of awkwardly leading your eye off the frame, but then it kind of catches you back and goes down to the end of this. And then you just have like this like ethereal ocean with like, looks like you did like a slower shutter speed to get a little bit of that long exposure motion captured in the water. Really good photo. So great job, Janet. All right, Mirella, edited. I didn't have time to get out. So there's my husband working out, posing for me. Good job, husband. And simple but effective, Mirella. So great use of the leading lines. And then you have, let's make this more complex. Even though it's minimalistic, let's make it more complex by adding the reflection and then also adding your subject at the end of these leading lines. And you got the leading lines of the fence or the railing and then the reflection all leading to your subject. Even on the right side, it's kind of leading. I would have been interested to see, and I mean, he's even like almost framed within this like door frame, which is very cool. So I think like for what it is, it's really good. Is it my favorite? Probably not my favorite photo of the day. 4-star, solid 4-star, maybe leading to 5-star for me. Yeah, what the heck? Merry Christmas, 5 stars, because this is like such a great practice of how to use leading lines in a photo with a subject. And it doesn't feel forced. It still feels pretty natural that these lines lead to that subject. So great effort to make that photo. Cree Harris, astronomical take on leading lines. I saw this photo and I was like, leading lines. It's more a frame within a frame, but at the same time, the perspective of looking down this tube thing, whatever this pipe or tube is, it does create a sense of leading lines. But is it lines? Yeah, you get like the ribs, the circles, and I think because they get smaller and smaller, it's doing what a leading line does, and I think the smaller photo circles do lead your eye down this tube versus if you didn't have these circles, if it wasn't like a ribbed tube or whatever this is. Regardless, the lighting is very nice, and great use of a subject and it's a cool positioning of a subject too, like in the foreground, but then the lighting and everything frames it well. I'd probably say it's more a frame within a frame. There are very much lines in there though. I just don't know if they're like as leading. Like, are those leading? Am I wrong here? Maybe I'm wrong. Leading cone. Yes, that maybe is what it is. It's like the cone shape leads. Maybe that's like a new photo technique we just created. Cone perspective. I don't know. Work with me on that one. I've never heard of anyone who's defined that as a photographic technique, but it works. Put your subject at the center of a cone. That there's something there. The photo itself is really nice, and the lighting's beautiful. All right, Suzanne here. Looks like you were on a train or something, looking down or going away from these tracks. The long exposure is pretty cool. There is a ton of digital noise in this photo. I don't know if that was just probably naturally because it's like pretty dark. I might have just even darkened this photo, but you do have a lot of leading lines. And the lines lead your eye to the end. It's very abstract. Would it look nicer? I mean, obviously there's not going to be a train or another metro or whatever it is here, like where it would be a nice subject. Like I kind of want to see a train here, like same perspective, but like have the train there that the lines are leading to. But obviously that's not the reality of the situation. You're on a train moving fast. So I think the leading lines are definitely there. It's a 3 lightning bolt photo in my book. I think technically the ISO maybe being high created all that digital noise. Celeste likes it. Good job. Thank you for sharing. But I kind of want it to be cleaner in a sense. And maybe just with editing, it could have been improved. Yeah. But the leading lines are there. All right, Celeste here. I like this one, Celeste. So this is one where you got the shadow of this wall leading to a subject, which you don't notice at first. You got this line here of the pier that also your subject is kind of at the intersection of these lines, which is nice. Very balanced, nice straight horizon, which I like. The only thing that I think could have made this stronger is your subject is like right in front of these buildings and they don't really stand out. And then this little hill in the water. I kind of wish that what was behind the subject was a little cleaner. So how do you do that? I don't know, like maybe you would have to get the camera up higher so your the background is just this plain water, but then you're losing like that leading line. So do you get down low and try to have the sky be the background? Then you lose this pier. And who knows if you could even do that because you got this hill in the background. So I think it's just like the natural result of like this moment in time. Like, I don't know if there's a better way to get a cleaner background for this subject that's at the end. I mean, the whole subject is like this pier, this wall. A lot of it's the subject, but I think because there's a person here, I kind of want to see them a little bit clearer. So maybe, you know, and this is not the situation, but maybe if the subject was walking towards you and they were like right here standing and then their head was like right here, that would have been kind of a cleaner background to them. The lines would have still been leading to them, but obviously not the situation. I'm just throwing out ideas for like making a photo. But still, solid photo. I think this is a 4 for me. Yeah, leading lines are good. And nice just balance of elements in the photo with this pier and the water and then the wall. Shadows is nice. Black and white edit. Chef's kiss. That's really good. All right, I think we got a couple more. Cesario decided to take a long exposure photograph featuring a leading line to the town of Laguna. Ah, this is interesting. Oh, that was your child there. Yeah, you could have asked your child to move. That would have been perfect. Yeah, you got this leading line. I think you do have this foreground object, this long exposure. It's very cool. I probably would have backed out just a little bit. Have a little, I think, like balancing out this top left with all this information. And then if this rock was over to the right just a little bit, which you could have done just by like maybe stepping back to the left one step. The light is very cool in the background with the lit up, you know, nighttime beach scene. I also think if you were back to the left, down a foot, you would have emphasized the leading line of this reflection of the water as well as the line of the cliff a little bit more. So for this challenge, that would have helped, because right now there is leading lines to some extent, but it's not very prevalent. But yeah, I guess there's like this line that these lines do lead towards like these lights in the distance, which is cool. But I think to emphasize it, again, camera position, super key. But just to make this photo a little bit better, like balancing this rock, which is a cool highlight to have, a cool thing to have in this photo, put it to the right just a little bit. And even getting a little closer with the camera to that rock so that you see those details. If your camera was lower, you still could have got the same exact sort of framing of the palm trees, the lights in the background, but just with the rock taking up a little bit more of the space in the framing, that would have been cool. But still, beautiful photo. I'm being super picky because it's very magical, and Laguna Beach is very beautiful. Diana, lovely photo. Great leading lines. Perspective's pretty good. Could have moved the camera up, down to emphasize the line. The lines would have been stronger, but I'm repeating myself at this point. Solid 4 stars. And yeah, I think just again though, camera down lower, tighter framing would have like had these ropes of this bridge taking up more space in the frame. And then also, I don't need like this much headroom of the clouds, because the subject is this bridge with this cool looking island thing in the distance. And so cutting off the top of this, or if the camera was down and tilted down a little bit, then you know, the bridge is more emphasized, these cool textures on the bridge, the ropes, everything else gets a little bit more brought into the framing. Also, just being here as is and zooming in would have done the same sort of thing. But still, beautiful photo. I want to go here. Where is this? This is arrived just as the rain stopped. Yeah, I don't know. Abios. Natural lines of the flower going in. Great lighting. Water droplets. Really great. Good sharpness. The leading lines are there for sure. You got these lines going of the flower all going down. And yeah, I think it's pretty good. Some different flowers might have stronger lines, but for what it is, solid 4 in my book. The lighting is amazing. That is in Greece, Diana. Nice. Awesome. Beautiful. Michelle, Brandenburg Gate. This is in Berlin, right? Kind of got the leading lines of the path going down. I think if you were further back, I'm not sure. I think this path, I've been here, you can get farther down. I think this path is a long way. I think that would have like emphasized the path leading lines a bit more, because right now the lines of the trees aren't very much leading lines. The lines on top of this gate and up and down aren't very much leading lines in a photo. The lines that are leading are the line that you see on the path at the bottom, but also like if you had, it's almost that cone effect. If you have like these trees that are receding into the distance and size, that creates almost like a line. So I would say this is more frame within a frame as well. So I'm going to give it a 2 because I think compositionally it's nice. The lighting, editing's nice. Colors are nice. But for leading lines, I don't think it has so much of leading lines. And that is it. Wow. So that was leading lines. I don't know if, I think some of you missed the start. This is my last review of frame by frame of the year. Next week it's Christmas on Thursday, so I'm celebrating that with my family. This week is one color. I'm not sure if I will be able to get back in and do a review of these photos. I'm seeing some lovely photos though, and the one color point, the point of this challenge is to find some sort of natural, or create it yourself, something where it's like one color is represented for the most part. Very cool. So I don't think I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm going to say I'm not going to be able to do a frame by frame next week. And I don't know if I will be able to catch up on this in the future. I need to schedule the following frame by frames for next year's challenges. They are all scheduled, so there's going to be no pause in you getting these weekly challenges. And I plan on being back in the new year. It might take a couple weeks to get going, and by that time there's going to be a few challenges, and I just don't think I'll have time to go through all of them. But stay tuned. We'll see. We should have a new live Q&A schedule also coming up for the new year once Sam, Will, and I get together and figure that out. But until next year, like, just have a beautiful day. Have a beautiful week. Have a beautiful end of 2025. It's been a great year. I posted in the announcements a little video recapping all the great things that have happened, and I love seeing your comments, and I really appreciate it. But let's make 2026 an amazing year too. So thank you so much for being here. Much love, and Merry Christmas if you celebrate. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa, happy whatever holiday you are celebrating. I hope that 2026 can be a more peaceful, loving year for you, for me, for the whole world. All right. See you next time, and I'll see you in 2026. That's crazy. All right. Bye.